Here we go, first family road trip in the Tesla. 240 miles one way, 4-hour drive, going up to northern Michigan, Mackinac Island. We'll see how the car does. All right, here we go, packing the car. This is what we're taking. We're gonna fit all of that into that. 2-day weekend. I don't know how much stuff your family takes when you go on a vacation, but I think we pack a lot. However, I say that with love because my wife basically did it all last night while I was making YouTube videos, so I love her very much and I appreciate her efforts. Let's see how it fits. All packed, not bad. Didn't even need to put anything in the deeper well or in the frunk yet. Here we are getting ready for the trip, putting the data into maps, and interesting, 238 miles one way from southeast Michigan up to the very tip of the lower peninsula. I thought we'd be able to make it. I charged the car to 100% last night. 312 mile range is what's showing. Here's what I'm getting on the Tesla mapping. It actually wants us to stop and charge. Begin trip, supercharger, stopping in about 2 hours at the supercharger in Bay City, projecting 61% battery, 20-minute stop, and then the remainder of the way up to the actual hotel that we're staying at up there in Mackinac City. Total trip time 4 hours 27 minutes, 273 miles. I figured that we would make a stop about halfway anyway. It's going to be slightly more than a 2-hour trip, and that would put us at right about actually the halfway point. But I'm almost a little disappointed that on a 312 mile range battery, we couldn't make, or it's not projecting that we can make, a 240 mile drive one way. Depends on how you're running your HVAC. We're going to be playing music and other things the whole way. Our phones are going to be on the wireless charger and that sort of thing, but interesting. I suppose we want to follow the instructions because there's not that many superchargers in northern Michigan. I know there's one in Gaylord, there's the one in Mackinac City, and obviously this one in Bay City, but I don't think there's too many more up that way other than these. So there we go. Interesting as well, there was actually an option on the screen to remove the charging stops and see what happens. And so it mapped it. It's actually projecting 289 miles. That's not what I got when I did Apple Maps. So maybe my math was actually wrong. It's not 240, it's 289, but I don't think that my prior mapping was incorrect. Still, we're showing a 4-hour drive, but you can see the big red indicator, charging needed to reach destination. So here we are, first stop. Pretty much exactly as predicted. It was saying we'd have about 60% battery. We're at 61. Still kind of surprised we couldn't make it all the way up on one full charge, but Bay City, Meijer parking lot, Tesla superchargers, or at least in the Midwest here, it seems like Meijer is the place for all the superchargers. So the preconditioning kicked in a few miles prior to pulling off. I think it was saying we're going to be about a 20-minute charge. I'm curious if that's going to take us all the way to 100 or where we end up, but in any case, perfect stop, perfect timing for a snack break and a bathroom break. And we came back from our walk into Meijer. By the time we got back, the car was almost full enough to continue our trip anyway. We only had to wait another 5 minutes, and we would have left somewhere around the 80%-ish mark, 83, 85%. But we took extra time to get lunch and everything anyway, so in the time that we had to wait, the car itself is already getting, we're going to leave pretty close to 100%. If we look at our trip so far, projected to get there with about 24% left. Originally we would get there with about 12%, so that minus the 40 that it took to get here, I guess we definitely wouldn't have been able to cross Michigan south to north in one charge, so we did need to make the stop. And just to look at our consumption for the trip so far. So we made it to Mackinac City. Hopefully you can hear me fine over the waves. You can see we got an awesome hotel room right here on the water. Great view, a little chilly. We made it pretty much exactly as the car said we were going to. We overcharged actually what we needed to because we took a little bit of extra time for lunch. But we arrived at about 20-some% battery, 21% right now, instead of about 10%, and we overcharged about 10%. So it pretty much all adds up. I would say that's the longest I've driven the Tesla yet, and it was a pretty nice drive, all things considered. We actually drove through a lot of rain, and I was playing with the autopilot, sometimes with the auto steer, experimenting and so on. I felt that the autopilot and steer was actually pretty well done for the rain. It slowed itself down when it needed to reasonable speeds. If I was driving the car myself, without the auto settings. It's probably about as fast as I would have been driving in some of those cases anyway. There were a couple times though with construction where we had like a barrier on the left side that I didn't really feel safe with the auto steer on, especially when the barrier changed to pylons or shifted a lane or something like that. Those are really the conditions where I don't think you want to be using that feature. You should be driving the car yourself. But once we got through all of the rain, open Michigan roads, northern Michigan roads, very smooth, probably super easy for the cameras and the vision system to follow, and the car just flew. So smooth, so nice, just a real comfortable drive all around. So we're sitting here again with about 20% battery. We'll have to stop and charge once on the way home. But right next to our hotel here, by where the ferries go over to Mackinac Island, is right where the Tesla supercharger is. So all we got to do is stop in there and top it off sometime over the next couple days of the weekend. Storage was good. Everybody was comfortable. I didn't hear any complaints about the size or the space or whatnot that anybody was dealing with. And we're used to usually family vacationing in our Explorer. So stepping down to the Model 3 gives up quite a bit of space. But for 2 days, again, we didn't need to bring that much stuff. We didn't even use the frunk. We didn't use the under trunk storage. We were good to go. One thing I will add that's actually kind of disappointing about the car though is the fact that our car build, like a lot of the later ones here in 2021, is just the vision system. It doesn't have the other sensors, and so it's still limited to 80 miles per hour if you use autopilot and auto steer together. And so our northern Michigan speed limits up I-75 go up to 75 miles an hour. I would generally drive faster than 80, at least 82, possibly up to about 85. And so it would have been nice to be able to set autopilot with auto steer at 85. I ended up not using auto steer for probably a good portion of the drive, driving faster. Northern Michigan, people usually drive up around those speeds, and so even driving 80, you need to be in the right lane, and you're pretty much getting past quite a bit. So hopefully that gets relieved soon. I believe that that's something that's being worked on, and the speed limitation is supposed to be being raised at some point. I think maybe as the vision system gets better, as the software gets better using the vision system or whatnot. But I hope that does happen, because 80's kind of low. So we left Mackinac. I have to say that I'm maybe less enthusiastic about driving this for a family trip. So we got up to Mackinac City, checked into our hotel. The car was pretty low. That night we were driving to just go to dinner, and we pulled into a charger, just literally plugged in for a few minutes to kind of get it up to a reasonable amount that would get us for any intermediate driving that we might do through the weekend, but not enough to get us home. So I actually made the mistake. When we arrived, my kids were playing at the beach and just kind of screwing around for a little while, and I should have taken the car and charged it then. I could have just sat in the car, they could have made some sandcastles, whatever. Instead, my wife and I kind of just read and hung out while they were playing, and I wasted that opportunity. So today, Sunday, we were getting ready to go. We got up, we went to breakfast, we visited a lighthouse, we hung out at the Straits of Mackinac Beach on the northern tip by the bridge. Late into the afternoon, finally time to go. Multi-hour ride home. It's like, oh wait, we got to go charge for a half an hour. So that's where a gas engine vehicle would certainly be superior, because we could just hit the road and leave instead of having to have yet another 30-minute delay to getting home, making us get home even later. And oddly enough, driving down 75, it basically was going to have a stop twice. Going to have a stop in Gaylord and have a stop in Bay City, charging in Gaylord for 5 minutes and charging in Bay City for 15 minutes. So that seemed really like a stupid waste of time. Why would it takes longer to get off the freeway and get on the freeway than it would actually take to sit and charge for 5 minutes. So I don't know why it wouldn't just take us to one charger or the other and just have us stay there long enough to make the trip home from either spot. So we were looking for food, debating what to do, not making it to Bay City until probably closer to after 7 o'clock versus getting into Gaylord more in the 5 o'clock hour, which is where we're at right now, and deciding, no, we're just going to stop and get our food in Gaylord instead of continuing to drive and end up eating late. And so it's like a little over 200 miles from here to home, and it was still having us intending to stop in Bay City, and I really don't want to make another stop from here. It's a Sunday night, it's already 6 p.m. I have to work tomorrow, kids go to school tomorrow. I don't want to dork around pulling off and sitting somewhere longer for any length of time if we don't actually need to do it for any other reason. So we're gonna go a little different route. We're gonna kind of violate what the car was recommending. So we're sitting here in Gaylord, and we're just going to charge full, or almost full, but full enough that we can get home from here. And oddly too, routing us home, it continues to route us so that we arrive back home at 20% charge. And so getting home, I don't think we necessarily need to arrive with 20% charge. We could arrive with 10% charge. So in that case, I don't want to take an extra 20-minute stop to get home with energy, because we're just going to get home for the night and plug the car in, and the car's going to charge overnight. So I think one of the things they really need to add to this is the ability to kind of customize your trip a little bit better. Let me choose how much energy that I want to get home with, because it doesn't need to be 20. I don't want it to be 0, because I don't want to risk running out of energy on the side of the road somewhere. But easily it could be 10, 8, and maybe 12. And I think that would have been enough to route us home. So we're sitting here charging. We're at 80% right now, 79%. I just want it to get it enough energy to get us home. And it's still showing stop in Bay City and charge for 15 minutes. Right now we've got battery range of 246 miles, and it's slightly over 200 miles to our home address. And I don't know. I don't understand the calculation factors. There's got to be some slew factor, right? It's accounting for using the HVAC. It's accounting for using the radio, and I don't know if autopilot and auto steer actually add some extra drain to the battery or not, but maybe it's accounting for some expected traffic slowdowns or that sort of thing. But we're driving on a Sunday night. It's already 6 p.m. I think we'll be able to cruise just through. So anyway, some more configuration I think would be a lot nicer. I think it's also interesting why, and I don't understand, maybe I'm an engineer and I understand a lot about automotive electronics, but I'm not a chemist and I'm not a battery expert. So why does it rush so much energy into the battery for the first little bit of charging, and then everything seems to really slow down from there? I guess I don't fully get that. It's charging like several hundred miles an hour for that first rush of energy into the battery, and then it just hits like a wall and it really slows down from there. I don't know if that's a limiting factor of the chargers or what it is. The other thing too, when you're traveling like this, is like food. So I had always been under the assumption that when we took the car on a trip and we stopped, we try to compound our stops as much as we can, right? You plug the car in, you go in, you use the bathroom, you grab some snacks, you walk, hopefully there's a decent restaurant in the parking lot of the Meijer, since all of these stops generally here in Michigan, at least the superchargers are in Meijer, and we grab food at one of the restaurants that's in the parking lot. But there's a couple faulty elements to that for our family. Particularly my wife is a celiac. She is diagnosed celiac disease, and we keep our kids gluten-free because of it. So we don't necessarily, or we're not able to just necessarily eat anywhere. We kind of have to plan our meal stops and our food stops. And that means that places that we might want to go to around Meijer are not necessarily walkable. So the idea of plugging in to charge, walk away, get some food, and come back didn't really work. That was kind of a faulty assumption. Instead, we kind of did it the other way, which is get off the freeway, get our food takeout, which generally speaking in the years of COVID, we're doing takeout anyway, right? Get the takeout, get it in the car, get to the charger, plug in, and then eat there. And so that seems to make more sense, because it gives us the ability to stop and get food where we want, for whatever might be available for us with a gluten-free menu and that sort of thing. But of course, then here's my rant. People have to charge our cars for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We need freaking picnic tables. This is disgusting. Every Tesla supercharger we have stopped at has nowhere to sit. There's no garbage can. These areas need to be serviced. Please, picnic tables. So that's pretty lame. Every one of these supercharger stations, I haven't seen a garbage can. I haven't seen a picnic table. I mean, people are stopping here for lengths of time, especially on long road trips. It's not always just 5 minute in and out. It's not always just a couple of minutes to go into the store and use the restroom and come back. It would be nice to have some metal picnic tables or some maintenance and some cleanup. And all along here, it's like cigarette butts. All these stops, it's not like it needs to be swept. It's not maintained. So something better needs to happen, I think, to manage these supercharger locations. If they're paying like Meijer staff or store staff, they need to come out here and clean these areas up. We literally just, as you saw, I guess, sat on the curb, the cigarette butt curb. eating our dinner, and it's just kind of gross and whatever. Yeah, we could sit in the car, but then you're gonna get food in the car and whatever. I'd rather sit outside, and it'd be nice to have somewhere reasonable to sit. So in terms of the drive itself, I still like driving the car. I think it's comfortable, it rides well. The freeway ride is great. But coming back, I think like I mentioned on the way up, right? Autopilot auto steer still taps out at 80 miles an hour. We're driving on a 75 mile an hour freeway, which basically means that I can only go 5 over, and I'm just having people run right up on the back of me. It's a Michigan road. People are expecting you to be going like 88 or closer to 90. And I want to go that fast. I want to get home. I don't mind driving at least 10 over usually on the freeway and such like that. So, but at the same time, it's like, it's been a long weekend. We did a whole bunch of biking and walking and other things yesterday. We did a bunch of stuff today. It's actually excellent to be able to have a car that can steer and do that sort of thing, but then it's driving me slower and making me almost a bit of a traffic hazard. So kind of a catch-22. And I was going back and forth. I'd steer for a little while, but set the cruise higher or set the autopilot higher. And then if we hit into more traffic or whatever and things slowed down, be comfortable going 80 and just bumped it down to let it steer itself. So I really hope they work that out, at least get it up to 85. I'd really like 85 at a minimum, or as a maximum allowable speed with the auto steer. That would be a significant improvement. Again, most of northern Michigan is 75 mile an hour freeway, and people don't drive 75, they don't really drive 80 in a lot of cases either. Family time. How has everybody liked driving the Tesla on family vacation? Number one, child number one.
I liked it, but they need to put in picnic tables.
They do, huh? All right.
Yeah.
Child number two.
They need picnic tables.
All right. You need
Is that all you have to say, child number 2?
You need an original
Are you
idea.
sure, child number 2?
Yes!
There's nothing else you'd like to add, child number 2?
I wish their trip would take shorter.
Okay.
You wish what?
The trip would take shorter.
The trip would take shorter. They
You
need
like
to make
playing the games when we stopped to charge, right?
Oh yeah, I did do.
Yeah.
did that.
What do we do? What do we do for a half hour while we were waiting to charge?
We played games on the screeny up there.
What game?
Fallout Shelter.
Yeah.
Is that all, child number 2?
Yes.
Spouse.
Hello.
I think gas stops are easier. I don't like picnicking on a gross curb. So sometimes I think it's just easier to stop, pull off, get gas, and get back on the road. It feels like a lot of extra planning goes into figuring out where we're going to stop and how we're going to coordinate and walking across the huge parking lot and the stores. I mean, if we needed a grocery stop, this would be super convenient, but most of the time we don't. We travel with snacks, so I'm not sold on it yet. It just feels inconvenient so far.
What was it doing on our first stop on the way up?
What?
It was raining, right? We had to
Oh,
walk.
yeah.
We had to walk
Yes.
across a big parking lot in the rain.
Yeah.
Instead of just pulling up to the
A
door.
covered gas station.
Maybe they need carports at the superchargers. All right. Anything else?
Anything else, child number 2?
No. Anything else? Child number 1?
No.
Are you guys looking forward to the next trip or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the same car?
Maybe. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're in Bay City. We had to stop after all. I didn't hold my speed lower. It was saying basically if we wanted to try to make it home with just a few % battery, limit your speed to no more than 75 miles an hour, and I wasn't prepared to do that. So I drove whatever I was going to drive, and we actually hit a period of slowdown for a little bit too. There was an accident, a car fire that had happened before we came through, but it was down to real slow for at least a few miles there. So we pulled in here with right on like 40% battery on the nose, and coming up north from home to Bay City, we used about 40% exactly. So hedging our bets, I don't think we would have made it home if we hadn't stopped. So makes sense that we put some light on. Makes sense that we did stop, because there's no way I want a chance having to pull over on the side of the road. Although granted, on the way up we hit more traffic. I don't think we'll hit that traffic on the way home. I think we'll skate right through. So it's going to be really interesting to see what we actually arrive home with from here, and how much less battery it takes to get home than it took to get to this point coming up, in any case. So supercharging with the prepared battery is now super fast. We've charged like 13% in 5 minutes. If we would have stayed in Gaylord, to charge an extra few percent would have taken 15 minutes at that final part of the battery. So if we would have hung out there longer to get to 100%, we would have been sitting longer than stopping again overall, I guess. And then even still, we might not have had enough battery. So better not to fool with it. I really wish, I don't know what it takes in terms of software and estimation to really make the estimated range and the actual ranges match up more, because the range of the car, is reporting close to 300 miles. We only needed little over 200 to get home at that point, and obviously it wouldn't have made it. So there's so much slush factor in there with regards to what the car is doing, burning energy. And obviously too, there's a very steep price to pay for driving faster, which makes sense, I guess, right? You need more energy to push the car at a higher rate of speed, but it's pretty severe. And I wish maybe more, I don't know, it just seems like there's more factoring elements and more information that could be given to us, be battery stats, battery status information, length of time information for different scenarios, and all that sort of thing. But in any case, we're just going to charge it up here. By the time a couple of us go in and use the restroom and come back out, we're going to end up getting home probably now with greater than 20% battery. I'm already at 56. In a couple minutes just making this video, we've gone up another 3%. So we'll make it home comfortably with more battery than we needed to, right on the edge. So it makes me feel like, man, maybe I wish I did have a Model S, another umpteen, or whatever the range difference is. I think it's close to another 100 miles or so in the Model S versus this Model 3 would have made a big difference in terms of the number of stops we needed, or at least in the long run. If you're going to make longer trips, that longer range that longer range EV really matters. I feel for anybody that has just a standard range plus of any of these cars and is driving any length of distance with it, because you got to be making so many stops. At least if you're buying a Tesla, get the long range models if you plan to go anywhere. And now it's 8:23. We got another hour and a half home. A 4-hour drive in our Explorer on a full tank of gas would have got us from home to Mackinac, or Mackinac to home, in one shot. No stops, nothing to worry about, no need to refuel. We would have had enough gas to get around town for daily driving and commitments tomorrow, and could have easily filled it up. Would have been a slightly bigger car, more comfortable drive, potentially driving at night. Still has adaptive cruise control. I don't know, in some respects I'm kind of regretting this. I'm getting tired. I got to go to work in the morning. This 4-hour trip is going to be on the order of in excess of 5 hours by the time we get home. Probably at least like 5.5. I think we left, actually including the original half-hour plus charge. Yeah, we probably had 6-hour drive. 6-hour drive in total out of a 4-hour drive in our Explorer. And coming back home on a Sunday, that's a hard price to pay. So we'll see. Oh, I can also say too, I really get frustrated by the penalty to the auto steer. So just between Gaylord and here, I was driving, I was in the left lane, again 80 miles an hour. People were coming up on my tail end, but there was a truck on the right hand lane, so I needed to get in front of that truck to get over to the right and merge, and so these other people riding up on me could pass. So I hit the gas to accelerate through with auto steer still on. Everything started beeping, going crazy at me. No, you're exceeding the speed, and then disengaged and said, oh, you can no longer use auto steer for the remainder of this drive. I've tested that before to actually see that happen, and I don't know, it's kind of like penalizing the driver, right? But in some cases, if somebody's doing a defeat device and doing something stupid, okay, well, I guess it makes sense. Shut it off, shut it down, and don't let them go back to using it. But in this case, I guess I needed to disengage auto steer into just autopilot to be able to accelerate up past the 80 to get past this truck, merge back over, and then turn everything back on. But again, I accelerated before disabling the auto steer, and then for the next 30 minutes of driving, I had no ability to re-engage auto steer until we actually hit that traffic slowdown. And then when things slowed down enough, I threw it into park really quick and back into drive, which took off the penalty assessment and let me re-engage the auto steer, which was good, because then the next 20 minutes was stop and go traffic, and that's kind of the perfect time to be able to have the car steer itself. So yeah, a bit of a pain point. And managing the vehicle between autopilot alone or autopilot plus auto steer is something you kind of got to get used to and figure out, depending on what type of driving maneuvers and stuff you need to do. And then we also very quickly drove back into a construction zone where traffic kind of shifted over to the left a little bit. There was a brick or concrete divider on the left hand side, had a big truck on the right hand side, and it cut us really hard to the left, and the car hugged it. But after I did that maneuver, I left myself thinking, like, that was really stupid of me. Like, as soon as I saw this kind of traffic scenario coming up, changing, I should have tapped the brake, and I should have been the one driving through that in its entirety. I don't know. I don't trust the system. If the line hadn't been drawn clearly, or that it hadn't kind of registered that concrete divider as much of a lane marker, we get in trouble. I mean, you could get in trouble in this car very fast. And I think I've said that in my earlier videos as well. Like, these systems are not 100%. And so you got to be real liberal. You got to be paying attention and making the right call. And I was a little late doing it then to say, all right, shut it off. And it's time for me to drive. So be aware. All right, before we go, so once again, Tesla supercharger place. No picnic tables, nowhere to sit, cigarette butts, trash. They really need to pick this stuff up. I'm actually surprised that there's so many cigarette butts around a supercharger place. I don't know, it just feels to me like the people buying EVs would not cross over in the Venn diagram with the people that are smokers, right? If you're green, you're buying an EV to be green. In some respects, you care about the planet. You think you care about your health a little more, but whatever. Gaylord was a lot worse than this, so this one's at least halfway decent. Still, tables, picnic tables, please. All right, final update. We're home. 10 after 10. 6.5 hour plus drive. Multiple charging stops. Would have been a 3-hour, 50-minute drive by Apple Maps, destination to destination, plus a stop for, maybe one stop for food and bathroom, if we'd have been in that. It's late. Now we got to unpack. Our cleaners are coming tomorrow, school, work. If we had driven that, we would have been home almost 2 hours earlier. We would have already been unpacked. Kids would have already been in bed. We would have already been ready for the cleaners, and I'd probably be chilling, watching AEW instead. We'll be doing everything else until midnight. I don't know. I think this definitely kills any remote thought I might have had in my mind about being a 2 EV household. I think one of these is fine as a runabout, daily. The overnight that we did with my daughter, all that stuff went fine, but anything longer than that long, even just a weekend, as we've just shown, a reasonable distance away, I don't know. I don't think we're ready there, or that the infrastructure is quite there yet. Someday when you can stop at any rest stop and pull over and Instacharge and grab yourself 10-20% by the time it takes a family to use the restroom and get back in and grab a snack, then that maybe starts to make more sense. I'm not super keen on Meijer as a charging stop. They don't generally have cafes and all that stuff inside of them. Like Kroger might have been a better call, or some kind of a grocery store chain. Kroger's that we've been in the Midwest here or through the country tend to have Starbucks and other type of that type of stuff in them. Meijer's doesn't really have that so much, so you can't get as much in a stop out of stopping at Meijer. But I don't know. I think I speak for the whole family when I say I think we probably all would have rather just driven the Explorer this weekend, and it probably would have been easier, faster, and I don't even care about $10 that I saved in gas. Probably more than that, honestly. I'd have to do the math, I suppose, but I doubt it was anything significant to actually make up for the differential. So yeah, we'll see. I'll definitely be talking a lot more about this as we go forward, and we'll see how else we use the Tesla and where else it excels and where else it kind of doesn't. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more. Bye.